Evening, one and all. Welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show worldwide here on the Vida television network. Glad you have tuned in. Glad you have made us part of your evening. Some changes coming to the program in 2018. You're going to notice we're going to be with you for an hour. Also, the program is pre-recorded, and we've done this to give you a little bit more of an opportunity to access the program. Now, here's how you got to do it. The show will actually air, which you're going to see here in mere moments, on AM 700 KSEV, the voice of Texas in Houston. All you got to do is call between the hours of 7:30 in the morning until 10 o'clock in the morning and listen and weigh in on the topics that we're talking about. 281-558-5738. Then you tell your friends, you tell your family, tune in right here on the Vida television network in the evening, and you can hear your contribution to the program. Hope this is fun for you, gives you a chance to participate a little more fully in what we do here. So without further ado, it's time for the Chris Salcedo Show worldwide. Hump Day in the voice of Texas, AM 700 KSEV. Welcome to it, everybody. Glad you have tuned into the program. You will all be relieved to know the President of the United States is not only in good condition for a man of his age, he's in tip-top condition. I mean, one might say he's magnificent, in top form. He's stupendous. The reason I'm laughing, and the reason why this is a thing, is because in collusion with the Democrats, the basket of biased press has been trying to undermine the stability of Donald Trump, his mental stability, trying to call into question among our fellow citizens that he's nuts. I'm forced to wonder what must be going through the White House press corps' mind. Let me get this straight. You're an American president who wants to put Americans first. You're crazy. Let me get this straight. You're an American president who doesn't want to pay off the number one state sponsor of terror. You've got to be nuts. You think as the commander-in-chief of this country that it is unacceptable for North Korea to have a nuclear weapon, and you're willing to do something about it. You've got to be full tilt bozo out of your gourd. And you think the American people deserve to keep more of their own money? That's it. This man must be crazy, says the basket of biased press. And so they have gone about, ladies and gentlemen, trying to lay down this predicate that Donald Trump is loopy, nuts, when it is actually they who are really crazy. I mean, unhinged. It is the White House press corps along with their masters in the Democrat Party, or the other way around, who are the people who are nutty, because many of these people have come up through left-wing dominated colleges who have sung the virtues of communism and socialism and despots and dictators and how they are the victims. That they wouldn't be as inhuman as they are if it weren't for the presence of America. If it weren't for the United States just insisting on these little, no torture standards. Freedom and liberty standards. So when somebody comes along who says, like Donald Trump, I want to make America great again, these people who are socialist, communist, collectivist cheerleaders go, it's already great. We're already heading towards second world status. The Chinese are going to take over as the number one economy in the world. We think America is fine. This is where America deserves to be, say a lot of these left-wingers, as long as it doesn't affect us, as long as we can continue to go to our cocktail parties and our kids can continue to go to private schools and we can live in our gated communities. For the rest of America, they all deserve it. The rest of America deserves to be live like the rest of the world lives, say these so-called intellectuals in and out of the basket of biased press. So when you get somebody like Donald Trump speaking as frankly as he does, and look, I've told you, we have issues with the way that Donald Trump tweets or the way he speaks sometimes, only insofar is when he steps on the good message of the things that he's doing. His bully pulpit, his megaphone, his Twitter account ought to be used to sing the praises of what he's doing and also telling the truth. I have no problem with telling the truth. Dick Durbin is trying to scuttle any deal on DACA. They don't want you folks out there who are in this deferred action against childhood arrivals. The only person that's standing in the way, the only party that's standing in the way of getting a deal done is Democrats. They don't want the deal done. They want you guys in perpetual limbo so they can run their campaigns on it. Trust me when I tell you this. They would have come to, and as a matter of fact, later in the program, I've got some sound bites. We had heard from the DHS secretary that the deal that was presented by this bipartisan weak group was so bad. And as a matter of fact, you guys know who Guy Benson is? I really like Guy Benson. The only negative on Guy Benson is he sounds a lot like Brian Williams. I mean, vocally. He sounds vocally like Brian Williams. I can't watch Guy Benson without thinking about the poster child for the basket of bias, Brian Williams, the liar. And that's, it takes me a lot to say Guy Benson. This is Guy Benson speaking, not Brian Williams. And once I get past that, though, I can hear what he has to say. And he's a moderate. He is your rank and file standard establishment Republican guy, maybe leaning a little bit toward our side, toward the right. He's a big proponent of normalizing these DACA kids, maybe even citizenship. And he said this deal that was presented to Trump was weak tea. And he says, come on, if you're going to do something for the Dreamers, which I support, you've got to stop this from happening again. Only a fool, only an idiot, only a complete moron would say, okay, let's put this Band-Aid over it. Let's normalize this population, and let's not do anything about it to keep another population of illegals being caught in limbo and being right back here in this same political morass. Only a fool does that. And the Republicans have been fools on this measure for a good many moons. 281-558-5738, 281-558-KSEV. You found the Chris Salcedo Show. So let's talk a little bit about the president's checkup. Not only did the president insist that the checkup be thorough, the president insisted on a cognitive ability test, testing his mental fitness. He insisted on it. Now, the surgeon who did it, Dr. Jackson, those of you who are Stargate fans will know the reference, one does not simply kill Dr. Jackson. This Dr. Jackson was also President Bush's doctor, was also President Obama's doctor. So and he's a military guy, upstanding credibility. Do you know what CNN did? This doctor examined the president, did all the tests. And, I heard about this secondarily. I didn't watch it because, frankly, the only time I catch CNN is when they themselves make headlines for being fake news. Oh, by the way, tonight it's fake news night. The fake news awards happening tonight. I am taking your suggestions all day long. Who is number 1, number 2, number 3 of the fake news networks and why? We've got a list that we'll go through during the program of some of the big fake news stories and who was the perpetrator. So that's happening. Anyway, so CNN brings on its own doctor. Here you've got the man who actually examined the president, actually conducted the tests. And then CNN says, well, this guy's giving the president a clean bill of health. Let's bring on our own expert, our own doctor, so he can shoot holes through this. Now, the problem is the doctor who examined Bush, Obama, and now this president, President Trump, military guy, integrity, credibility, and he actually had the benefit of actually doing the tests, of actually being in the room with the patient. CNN brings on a doctor who did none of these things, to give his evaluation. To hopefully they were praying. And I'm not even sure what the outcome was, because all I heard was is the sheer idiocy of CNN to bring on their own doctor who didn't examine the president to give his evaluation. This shows you how deranged these people are. Fox News Channel put together a montage of these left-wing kooks, these left-wing freaks. And then at the end, you'll hear the doctor, Dr. Jackson, give his take on the president's state of health.
His actions have been described as unpresidential, as unhinged, and sometimes even crazy. Now, that word crazy can be interpreted several different ways.
Yes, several different ways. And, of course, little Brian Stetler means if you go against liberal orthodoxy, you must be nuts. If you don't want to be the next incarnation of Hugo Chavez or Nicolas Maduro or the Castros, not the ones here in Texas, but yeah, actually it applies to the ones here in Texas as well. If you don't want to be the next despot, dictator, or left-wing strongman on the world stage, well, then you must be crazy. Because Barack Obama really wanted to be a left-wing strongman. He told us so. He lamented the fact that he didn't have the totalitarian iron fist grip over the people of America that Chinese leaders have over their country. He lamented that fact. He didn't celebrate our freedom. He lamented his lack of power to tell us what to do.
It gets said a lot more in private than it gets said on TV.
He's completely detached from reality. If this is not what the 25th Amendment was drafted for, people close to him say is mentally unfit, that people close to him during the campaign told me had early stages of dementia.
Okay, that was Morning Joe. And the woman he cheated on his wife with, Mika Brzezinski. Oh, they're slated to be married. Did you guys know that? Morning Joe apparently has the same predisposition as Peter Strzok. And just about as much truth. Does anybody believe for a minute that anybody who was in confidence inside of the Trump campaign told Joe that the president was unfit, knowing how tight the president's circle was and knowing how loyal the president's circle was? Does anybody believe that for a minute? I sure as heck don't. And, not to put too fine a point on this, can you trust a man who betrays his wife? I'm asking that. Can you trust a man, his word, on a guy who steps out on his wife? A guy like Peter Strzok or a guy like Joe Scarborough.
Guy can't go put one coherent sentence after another. He's off. He can't stay on subject.
He's very sharp, and he's very articulate when he speaks to me. And I've never known him to repeat himself, around me. I found no reason whatsoever to think that the president has any issues whatsoever with this thought process.
Who are you going to believe? A decorated Army? I think it was Army. A decorated military physician who served Republicans and Democrat presidents, or Morning Joe? Who are you going to believe? I'm asking you, who are you going to believe? Now, you heard also Morning Joe, the liberal over there at MSNBC, bring up the 25th Amendment. And this has been one of the multi-pronged attacks on Donald Trump, devoid of substance, nothing good for the country, only the fact they wanted to attack Donald Trump. And they wanted to have him be sufficiently seen as crazy so that Mike Pence would be forced to invoke the 25th Amendment to replace him as being mentally unfit for office. And this got blown out of the water yesterday. Simply blown out of the water. Well, the Fox News panel weighed in on this, and we'll get their reaction. But, aren't you happy that the likes of Joe Scarborough walked away from this yesterday, frustrated, that, you know what? No, it's not a crazy idea to want to put America first. Maybe Morning Joe and Stetler and Stelter, however you pronounce that guy's name over at CNN. And I say that on purpose, ladies and gentlemen. There's a story about that. along with Michael Wolff, who was in that, maybe they're the ones who are crazy. Back in a minute. Chris Salcedo Show. Here are the voice. I can't forget to tell you guys about why I said Brian Stelter. That was on purpose, folks. I did that on purpose because of what's been going on at CNN. Russell, just remind me to circle back and tell you guys what that's all about. Because if Donald Trump can be accused of making a racist statement where he never even talked about race, so too can folks over at CNN who did the same gosh blessed thing. And we will we'll address that coming up on the program. The panel on Fox News yesterday got a hold of this. It was Guy Benson, Mara Liasson, and Charlie Hurd from the Washington Times, and along with Brett Baer, and they were discussing this push by the Democrats, one of the three prongs. And we had actually played this soundbite from Brit Hume. It was yesterday. Trump's a racist. Trump's crazy. And there was a third, Trump's, the Russia collusion thing. So the three-pronged attack, none of it has to do with making your life better. All of it has to do with, with getting rid of Donald Trump. Man, I'm looking for that story, and there it is. Sorry, I'm a little distracted because there are so many. Sarah Huckabee Sanders was on fire yesterday. I mean, she just handed it to the basket of biased press, and they so richly deserve it. So, those of you on the Vida television network, you see the white flashes in my face. That is me pulling up a story right here in front of my face on the monitor that also doubles as a camera mount for you guys at the Vida television network. Anyhow, by the way, Vida television network is spelled VIDA, folks, if you want to look it up. If you contribute to the Chris Salcedo Show, you jump on a call, 281-558-5738. You can, if you get Roku or Fire Stick, or you can catch your offerings on that station. It's broadcast in South Carolina, but goes across the country on those nationally distributed platforms. Anyhow, so the panel was speaking yesterday about this tactic of the left trying to say that Donald Trump was mentally unfit and hoping he would be declared mentally unfit so the 25th Amendment can be invoked and they'd have a President Pence. And then that would be their scalp. They would be able to march toward 2020 saying, the Republicans don't know what they're doing. Republicans can't pick a good candidate, so vote for us. That was the whole game plan. That didn't happen, and the Fox News Channel panel was like, hey, can we finally put this to bed now?
Yeah, so when we're talking about fitness, to me, it's not about cognition. It's about character and other things. And that has always been the case. So it's, mental fitness is a different question from overall moral fitness, perhaps, for office or for a high office like this.
Now, that's Guy Benson. Now, you guys know, as I told you before, he's a moderate. Guy Benson is a moderate, establishment kind of guy. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we politically disagree, but I'm not saying I really like Guy Benson. He's a smart guy. He really is. So I'm not trying to disparage him. I'm just saying that he's not as conservative as your host. He doesn't have the same worldview as your host, and that's okay. It's okay. There are liberals out there. I would trust Guy Benson's evaluation of a situation more than I would a liberal because a lot of liberals lie. But Guy Benson, as you hear, is for him, it's never been physical or actual mental acuity. He has opposed Trump because of Trump's boorishness, because of Trump's approaches to diplomacy, meaning he's not very diplomatic. He's not your typical statesman. And that's what has always rubbed guys like Guy Benson the wrong way. Donald Trump just isn't, he just doesn't roll over for Democrats the way Republicans should. He doesn't allow the basket of biased press to define him. He doesn't allow Democrats to railroad him. He just stands so much for what he wants to do. And that, you know what, folks, that kind of strength rubs a lot of people the wrong way. The go along to get along crowd. We don't want to make Dick Durbin mad. We don't want to make Chucky Toomer mad. We don't want to make Nancy Pelosi, pop a blood vessel. We don't want to do that. So let's just give them what they want. What strikes me as funny is that, Donald Trump is a Democrat most of his life, and he has their tactics down beautifully. And now the tactics are being employed against the Democrats for the first time. I mean, Republicans, if you think about it, they're content to sit back and say, well, we are the statesmen. We will not go down that road as the Democrats are gone down, and we will have our self-respect. Meanwhile, the country is circling around the toilet bowl. So they'll give in to the temper tantrums and the foot stomping of the Democrats and the liberal extremists up there on Capitol Hill, just so they can appear to be statesmen, just so they can appear to be, how shall we say, individuals of good breeding. Meanwhile, the country's going in the toilet. Donald Trump gets up there and says, what? What? You want to give in to who? To Chuck Toomer? Just because he's throwing a temper tantrum? Boy, you Republicans are pushovers. And a lot of the Republicans are like, what? Fight back? Fight back? You mean we should actually advocate for what we ran on? You mean we should actually fight for what we ran on? We should actually insist that some of our agenda, as we're the majority in Congress and the White House, says some of our agenda might get through. I mean, we got to insist on that. Donald Trump, I believe, dragged these folks kicking and screaming across the finish line with tax reform. And that is not to say that there wasn't a lot of good work done. And that bill could have been a lot better. Trust me, it could have been. But at any rate, that's just a. I don't want to besmirch guys like Guy Benson. I don't think he was never Trump. I don't think he was, what's his name, Bill Kristol. I think he's made up his mind, and this is probably why I respect him, is that he's going to evaluate Trump on a case-by-case basis, the same way we do. Problem is, Guy Benson is evaluating him on a moderate scale. I'm evaluating Trump on a conservative scale. Where does Trump fall? What is our expression? We say, where Donald Trump's populism meets our conservatism, we'll support him.
The president scored perfectly on his cognitive test. Good for him. Maybe we can put aside this silliness and address what he's doing, what he's saying, and the outcomes of his policies.
Well, have you seen? I've covered the White House. I have not seen a briefing like this.
No.
Yeah. You heard Brett Baer. I've not seen a briefing like this. The doctor was told, get out there and answer every question the press has for you. He was there for an hour. Russell, I can't remember a time when a sitting president of the United States was they were asking stupid questions about what flavor Skittles he liked, I heard. Really? It was absolutely crazy. These people who pretending that they have any medical knowledge whatsoever. It was a joke. It was an hour of these people trying to undermine a military guy and a respected military doctor. It was something to
this level of detail, this many questions, and the president told him, stay out there until everyone is answered.
Yep. It was really something. And not only has he served all these other presidents, he gets really high marks from these previous administrations. He's a well-loved, figure or physician.
Dr. Jackson.
So Dr. Jackson, I think it would be a good thing for Democrats if this was off the table. Sure, you can talk about his character and his behavior if you want to, but the whole argument about whether he's mentally deranged or unfit, let's just finish with that, because I don't think it gets anybody anywhere.
This closes,
and now it's been put to bed.
It seems like it closes that door.
Well, I think among rational people it does, but I don't think that it's going to end the crazy talk that we've heard.
Yeah, Maxine Waters, She's going to continue to talk about it. She's full tilt bozo crazy. Her intellectual equals over at MSNBC, they're going to continue to talk about it. But the rest of us who are, sane, truly sane. See, and that's what I'm saying, folks. Who's the insane person? I think it is Morning Joe, Wolf, and Brian Stelter, whatever his name is. I'll tell you what that's all about next. Chris Salcedo Show here on The Voice. So what do you guys make of this? On CNN, Chris Cuomo, the extremist left-wing anchor of their morning program, and that's saying something. This guy is a communist cheerleader, actually loves communism. What do you guys make of this?
This comparison, which nobody questions. They're parsing the word because they can. And they're trying to blame it on the media because they think that works for them. Time will tell the test. You have these two senators on...
I'm sorry. Time will tell the test? Okay.
Works for them. Time will tell the test. You have these two senators on one side, but remember, AB, we went to the White House when it happened, and Raj, whatever his name is, didn't back off the words.
No denial.
Caitlin Collins then talked to a staffer, and they said, yeah, that's what he said, and we believe the base is okay with it, just like with the NFL stuff.
Raj, whatever his name is? This is Chris Cuomo, folks, who assigns racism to Donald Trump when race is never even mentioned because he knows what's in his heart. Chris Cuomo knows what's in Donald Trump's heart. He says, oh, he's a racist. So here's Chris Cuomo talking about Raj, what's his name?
You have these two senators on one side, but remember, AB, we went to the White House when it happened, and Raj, whatever his name is, didn't back off the...
Raj, whatever. That sounds rather dismissive by the white Cuomo, doesn't it? White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders wasted no time in torching CNN host for refusing to pronounce the name of an Indian American and a Trump aide, Raj Shah, on Monday morning. CNN Chris Cuomo referred to Raj as Raj, whatever his name is, during a segment condemning President Donald Trump for being racially insensitive. Think about the irony there. Chris Cuomo, with a wave of his hand, this Indian shrub who works for Donald Trump. One might be using Chris Cuomo's standard for Donald Trump, one can conclude that Chris Cuomo is racist against Indian folk.
You have these two senators on one side, but remember, AB, we went to the White House when it happened, and Raj, whatever his name is, did...
The Indian aide to Donald Trump isn't even worth Chris Cuomo's time to learn how to pronounce his name. So that could be considered by Chris Cuomo and the basket of biased press standard as a racist comment. Now, granted, Cuomo didn't mention race, but we can glean because of his dismissive attitude toward an Indian American that Chris Cuomo doesn't like Indians very much. Can't we conclude that by using their ridiculous standard? 281-558-5738, 281-558-KSEV. Let's go to Fred. Hey, Fred, welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show. I'm glad you tuned in.
Good morning, Chris.
Hey, man, what's going on?
Well, first of all, I'm just, how in the world did we wind up in a situation where these kinds of questions are, this ist and that obion are dominating our news?
Well, the Democrats lost an election, man. This is the price America pays when Democrats lose elections.
Yeah, that's a little closer to what I wanted to get to. It's really more about Guy Benson. And let me set this up a little bit. About a year and a half ago, back right around the time of the conventions, and there used to be a meeting called Red State that Eric Erickson ran, and it was co-sponsored by Town Hall.
Right.
So there were a number of panelists. Guy Benson was on the panel, and suffice it to say, there was a lot of never Trumpers in that room. On the panel, some of the speakers, and I didn't understand what was going on there at all. To me, at that point, the reality was this: either Donald Trump or Hillary were going to be the president.
Right.
And that was it. And all of this endless, bashing of Trump. It wasn't just some of the panels. I can't speak for sure to Guy Benson, But clearly that sentiment was all over that panel and among some of the speakers.
Fred, you've got to cut these Republicans like Bill Kristol and others some slack. These guys have been in the trenches doing nothing for 15, 20 years. They had set us up for the neocon George W. Bush presidency and set up the country for the occupation of the Oval Office of Barack Obama. And they were fine with all of this, allowing the Iranians to get their hands on nukes, allowing the North Koreans to get their hands on nukes. This was all done with the blessing and the approval of these wayward Republicans, these intellectual Republicans like Bill Kristol. The fact that we have open, as a matter of fact, I think it's the Wall Street Journal's editorial page is hugely pro-illegal alien. I mean, they are massively against breaking federal immigration law. Bill Kristol could have been happy as a clam getting out there and writing column after column after column about how Hillary Clinton is doing this wrong and that wrong, but behind the scenes showing up at cocktail parties and toasting her because the establishment folks would stay in power and nothing positive for America would get done. And that's the way they liked it. Fred, great call, man. Thank you very much. I didn't realize we were that close to a break. Be right back, folks. 281-558-5738. More of your calls. And what happened yesterday on the floor, not the floor, it was a chamber, a Senate chamber, as the Department of Homeland Security Secretary was testifying. What did Democrats want to know about? They want to know how to protect you and your family? No. They wanted to know about President Trump's curse word. Back in a minute. Top of the morning, everybody. And if you're watching on the Vida television network, good evening. Folks, for those of you who don't know, the Chris Salcedo Show is aired on television, and they tape delay it. So you guys get on the air with us in the morning, and then you can watch yourselves at night. Vida, V-I-D-A, television network. Let's get out to Bill. Hey, Bill, thank you for waiting. Glad you waited for the Chris Salcedo Show. What's going on?
Hey, Chris, I just thought I'd bring up a couple of things. First thing is about Trump's mental, I call him, he's in good capacity. Mm-hmm. They did the same thing with Richard Jewell of the Atlanta Olympics when he found the bomb, and they said he's a typical wannabe. All these doctors, they had, all the liberal media, he made $1 million.
Well, they did the same with Reagan, too, remember? Right. Remember, they did the same with Reagan. He was too old and senile to be effective, of course. He won the Cold War. You know, I would take a senile Ronald Reagan over a perfectly so-called mentally stable Democrat any day of the week, because at least Ronald Reagan on his worst day was head and shoulders above any Democrat.
Yeah, and the other thing is, you may be aware of it. You've been in the business long enough. The Cuomo family has some ties to organized crime. And
no. No.
With a name like Cuomo, what do you expect? Okay? But it had to
say
do
it
with
ain't
some
so.
Sort of yes, it was. That's why he didn't run for president. There was some skeletons in there, and there was something about, I think it was a father-in-law or some sort of in-law that. He was beat. They beat the crap out of him. He was supposed to be an arsonist.
Well, how did the Kennedys get their money? How did the Kennedys get their money? The dad was a bootlegger. He was a bootlegger, right? He was a bootlegger. Right. He's a lawbreaker. So you know what? Look, Democrats have a long history of making money off of breaking the law. I mean, hey, look at all the Democrats out in California. They love illegal immigration. They're breaking the law. They're making money hand over fist off of it. The pot states, they're making money hand over fist of violating federal drug law. It's the Democrat way.
Did you hear about Ted Kennedy? And there was something documented that he had some ties, which we know, to organized crime. And
what I do know about Ted Kennedy is that he collaborated and colluded with the Russians to undermine Ronald Reagan's reelection prospects. We actually have documentation of Ted Kennedy's office trying to undermine a sitting U.S. president with the Soviet Union. That's why this whole collusion business smacks of hypocrisy. The Democrats have a long history of placating and working with America's enemies.
But there's another one where they have a connection to the Jimmy Hoffa murder.
Of course. Well,
Jimmy Hoffa for his brother's murder.
Nothing surprises me, man. Nothing surprises me,
so
Bill.
That's exactly what when you deal with. You got to remember, I used to be a liberal. I used to be liberal to radical. And then after the Vietnam War, came back from Vietnam, I saw, hey, we cut and run. What is this? And it was all Democrats that were doing the cut and run.
Right. Who started the war?
The Gulf of Tonkin incident, which was the big lie to begin with.
Who started the war? Who got us into the war? That was a Democrat.
LBJ.
Yeah.
LBJ, actually.
Well, yeah. Well, yes, I understand where that comes from. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate the call, Bill. 281-558-5738, 281-558-KSEV. In mere moments, I'm going to get you guys some of this sound from yesterday's hearing. It was outlandish. But I think our next caller wants to get me into the sound from this hearing on Capitol Hill with the DHS Secretary. Louis, good morning. Welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show.
I want to get you into. Yes, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I tell you what, I wanted to go through the television when I saw that Senator Cory Booker. It makes me cry. I wanted to cry.
I know. What an idiot. What an idiot.
With alligator tear. How come he's not crying when the illegal alien, the people that they want to bring here, raped the 6-year-old, broke into the house, raped the 6-year-old girl? As a matter of fact, they showed that on television yesterday, his face of this piece of garbage that raped the little girl. But see, the Bookers, all these people, they know how to talk nice and soft. This is how did they get their district and all these people to vote for them. They are nothing but the foot soldiers of all these liberals. They don't have a leg to stand up. I'm telling you, they don't have no leg to stand up. They don't know what to say anymore.
Well, you're right about one thing. No Democrat sheds a tear when an American citizen is either brutally raped or killed by an illegal alien. Democrats can't be anywhere found around a camera crying over Americans' blood being spilled by illegal aliens that Democrats let into the country.
They want to bring more ghettos into our city from all this country which it's a fact. All you get from all this country, and I'm not saying that the prejudice, all we get is more ghettos. I mean, I'm on the black people in all the neighborhood. They're losing jobs. They don't. All those jobs that they can be used doing them, it could be, it's been taken by those who are coming illegal.
You said something there that I think that is a truism. I think Americans, and I think it's the reason why Trump got elected, Americans are tired of hearing Democrats saying, we must do more for other countries. We must do more for their citizens. We must import them. We must set up welfare programs. And American citizens are going, wait a minute. What about us? And the Democrats aren't talking about Americans. Louis, I got to get into these sound bites because you brought them up. Thank you very much for the call. I appreciate it. Cory Booker, Democrat, New Jersey, was laying into Kirstjen Nielsen, DHS Secretary, yesterday, because every single Democrat wanted to know if Donald Trump had said S-holes. That's all they wanted to know. They didn't want to know about protecting you. They didn't want to know about protecting your family. They didn't want to know about border security. They wanted to know about how they could bash the president of the United States. So here comes Cory Booker. He's livid and he's upset. He's not livid and upset about Americans who have lost their lives at the hands of illegal alien felons. No, that's not what Cory Booker's crying over. Cory Booker is crying over because the Secretary of Homeland Security said that she couldn't recall who said what, because as it turns out, there was a free-for-all cursing going on all over the place in this meeting. It wasn't just Donald Trump. Members of both political parties were cursing up a storm and a frank discussion. But the only one that got reported was Donald Trump, because there was the only one that was leaked by Democrats. Here's Cory Booker, as Louis rightly points out, crying some crocodile tears.
When ignorance and bigotry is allied with power, it is a dangerous force in our country. Your silence and your amnesia is complicity. Right now in our nation, we have a problem. I don't know if 73% of your time is spent on white supremacist hate groups.
Oh, good grief. His contention is that the violence done in America is 73% done by hate groups, by white supremacist hate groups. It's a specious stat that ignores the disproportionate amount of crime that is committed inside of poor neighborhoods across this country in the black community. The crime stats bear that out. Now, he's being very specific about quote-unquote hate crimes, but general murder and mayhem, the black community.
I don't know if 73% of your time is spent concerned about the people in fear in communities in this country. Sikh Americans, Muslim Americans, black Americans.
Oh, yeah, they all live in fear. So do you know why a lot of black communities live in fear, Cory Booker? It's because the cops won't show up into their neighborhoods anymore because of people like you. Because your first instinct is to attack the cops, and they don't want they don't want to go in, put their pensions and put their lives on the line for some ungrateful S-hole like you, Cory Booker.
The fact pattern is clear of the threats in this country. I hurt. When Dick Durbin called me, I had tears of rage when I heard about his experience in that meeting. And for you not to feel that hurt and that pain.
He almost said anger. Did you guys hear that? Cory Booker is an angry man.
When I heard about his experience in that meeting, and for you not to feel that hurt.
Anger. Oh, no, I can't say anger. That's politically incorrect. We all heard it, Cory Booker.
And that pain, and to dismiss some of the questions of my colleagues, saying I've already answered that line of questions when tens of millions of Americans are hurting right now.
Oh, shut up. Tens of millions of Americans are hurting because of your economic policies, Cory Booker. Tens of millions of Americans are hurting because you allow illegal alien felons to roam the streets of America, Cory Booker. Spare me your sanctimony, you elitist leftist moron. Back in a minute. Erin Cruz has been a resident of the state of California 38 of her 40 years, an author of the political and business communication book Revolution America, and is the producer and host of The Erin Cruz Show. Mrs. Cruz is a Tea Party Republican and a constitutional conservative. She's a self-described conservatarian, ladies and gentlemen, and she's running to replace Dianne Feinstein in the once great state of California as a United States Senator. Ms. Cruz, welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me in once great California. We are going to make California golden again. That's our goal.
Well,
our goal is to unify.
Look, I'm a native-born San Diegan. I left California in 2006, what I call the People's Republic of California. And I was just telling the folks on the show, I've told this story several times. I went back last year, and I can't believe just how far California has fallen. I mean, tent cities of illegal aliens all over the population centers. Los Angeles and Orange County is where I saw. It's getting pretty bad out there, yes?
Well, that's what it seems to be the case. We have a rising level of homelessness. Illegal aliens are being put before, and refugees are being put before the American citizen in terms of benefits and aid, and that's unfortunate. It has to change.
No, I couldn't agree more. Now, look, I remember, because I was involved intimately in Republican California politics, and even back in my day when I was there, the California Republican Party, let's just say, I'll say it so you don't have to. It's just not the greatest. They seem to be of this this Washington mentality of the mainstream Republican Party, that their job is to roll over for Democrats. That seems to be the mentality of a lot of the Democrat Party, even among those who are Latinos out there who are in the Republican Party. They seem to be of a mindset out there to wait their turn. I actually had a guy tell me that. Oh, we just have to wait our turn. I said, to heck with that. I'm not waiting. Give us some of your struggles and what you're finding to try to get some traction in a heavily blue state as a legitimate conservative, not just a Republican, but a conservative.
Well, getting traction isn't that hard when you're trying to follow somebody like Donald Trump, who's an outsider, really. He's not a politician. He's never held an office, and he went for it. And after writing my book, I decided, a couple of weeks ago, actually literally a couple of weeks ago, somebody approached me and they said, nobody's really running. And I looked at the candidates and I thought, there's nobody I can vote for here. What am I going to do? And I thought about my book, Revolution America, and what I said in there, which is, we are Revolution America. I mean, we're it. We have to make a decision of what role we want to play in our country and in our families and in our communities. And then I prayed about it and thought about it and said, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
I'm going to run for Senator Dianne Feinstein's seat. And this is insane. This is crazy. I've never run for office, but you know what? Neither did Donald Trump. Donald Trump had an uphill battle fighting the media, a stigma, the establishment. He's still struggling with this. I don't think it's something that's going to go away for me. But you know what I've seen is that the people are motivated. He started something more than just, a run for office. He started a movement.
Right. Let me ask you about.
We can jump on that momentum. I do believe that there's been somewhat of a climate change there, and many people have strongly backed me here on the ground.
Well, let me ask you about the Republican Party, because they have a practice out there, and maybe you're familiar with it, of just putting in placeholders, just to say they put up somebody. And what the practice is to put up somebody to lose. That's the Republican Party of California's agenda, is to put up somebody that's going to lose. Have they done so? Because from what I'm understanding, they didn't approach you. You're doing this on your own. So do the Republican?
I've decided to do this on my own. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've wanted to run for other offices, small offices, and I really never received much backup or support in that area.
Yeah, I know.
And when I decided to do this, I did it all feet in. But the thing is that whether or not they approach you, whether or not you approach them, these things have to change. Putting in a placeholder, I'm not going to say they do that. I will say that, when they see people who want to run and serve the American public, the California citizens here,
yep.
Their job is to support them. And that's what I've received from the CRP. I've received, and this is overwhelming support in terms of resources and guidance. And I think part of it is, people who want to run for office, they need to just jump both feet in and say, I need you to help me. We need to do this. And the Republican Party, what I've seen just in the last few weeks, I've gotten more help than I ever did before.
Well,
when I wanted to run, and that's good news to me. Now, putting in a placeholder, I've heard that too. I've seen a little bit of it last election against Kamala Harris, but it's. I think again after Donald Trump, some things have changed, and it's good to see.
Well, praise God. I hope it's
uniting.
I hope it's true. Let me ask you. By the way, Erin Cruz. Erin Cruz is our guest right now, folks, here on the Chris Salcedo Show. She's running to replace Dianne Feinstein and occupy that Senate seat from California. Your last name is Cruz, and we have a love for that name out here in the great state of Texas for obvious reasons. We've had good luck with folks named Cruz out here in the state of Texas. Let me ask you, is that a married name, or are you a Latina, or because identity politics, they're big in California. What is your background?
Yeah, so identity politics are what is killing the United States of America.
Sure.
We should be voting for people who can make impact and are going to make good policy choices, not on the color of skin, gender, or any other on any other value. That yes, it is a married name.
Okay.
And I am of European descent. My family came here in late 1820s to the United States and worked in agriculture and infrastructure and agriculture. My other side of the family came here from Austria, and it basically escaped, the Nazis. So, that's Cruz. I have a real problem when I'm identified as say, a Latino, not because I'm not Latino, but because the premise of this is that somehow by association of a name or by association of a nationality, I might be preferred.
No. And you know what? That's part of the reason why this program exists, is to destroy those stereotypes.
We need to neutralize that.
Yes, absolutely.
We need the best candidates for the country.
Exactly. You are spot on that. And again, that's the reason why this program and my buddy Kevin Jackson, the Black Sphere, why programs like that exist is because the predicate has been laid down that if you're to be a legitimate Latino, you must be a liberal. If you're to be a legitimate black person, then you must be a progressive. And nothing can be further from the truth. Everything boils down, and this is a Salcedo Show axiom, that everything boils down to ideology. Ideology trumps, if you'll pardon the pun, everything. So look, Erin, I want to ask you about something that's going on in your state. We just talked about it briefly on the program about this new California movement. Let me play a little snippet from the CBS report and I'll get you to react. Hold on.
Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to seek a constitutional remedy to the abuse of powers.
With the reading of their own version of a Declaration of Independence, founders of the state of New California took the first steps to what they hope will eventually lead to statehood. To be clear, they don't want to leave the United States. They want to expand it, becoming state number 51. But the question is,
what is your problem with the current state of California?
And that is a long list. But the folks who are pushing this effort, those who don't have any representation in Sacramento, Los Angeles, or San Francisco, and now in the United States Capitol, because Kamala Harris and Dianne Feinstein don't represent geographically a large portion of California, because these folks are left-wing extremists. How are you going to reach the folks who feel underrepresented right now, Republicans and conservatives?
Well, this is the thing. This goes in the same line, Chris, with identity politics, is that, we have right now a situation where, a group of people don't feel represented, and so somehow they're going to pull away and they're going to create a 51st state. Look, we have to unite. We're all Californians. This idea to divide or to pull off is not going to solve anything. If you were to take that energy that you're putting into, the North splitting from the South, or New California from, the old California, whatever you want to do, you take all that energy and you put it into actionable change of the leadership here in California. If you have the power to break off a state, you sure as heck must have the power to break off and fix the leadership issues.
Well, and there are some serious leadership issues out there in the state of California.
So that I believe that there can be better solutions made, and one of those is to harness the energy properly and to make change in this next election process.
Erin Cruz, our guest right now, folks. Last question I have for you.
Yes.
She is running for the United States Senate to replace Dianne Feinstein. The Department of Homeland Security came out yesterday and said they were exploring ways to prosecute Democrats, because there's no Republican in the United States who is thumbing their nose at federal immigration law. It's exclusively Democrats. They want to talk about prosecuting and throwing in jail Democrats who stand in the way of enforcing deportation for illegal alien felons. What do you think about that?
Well, I was looking, after you asked me to weigh in on this, I was looking at the issue of the sanctuary ordinance in, like, for example, San Francisco. And this is an issue where San Francisco has fought against federal immigration laws since, way back, 89. And then again in 2013, there were more issues with the due process for all, where they pushed back literally on giving it, ICE advance notice of a person's release from local jail. They don't adhere to some of the policies that are in place. And I've signed and I've mailed in a statement to Numbers USA on my stances on immigration reform. And I fully back the federal government and whatever they have to do to support and enforce immigration laws against these rogue cities and states. It's not okay for these areas. Now, I believe in states' rights, but it's also not okay for these areas to overstep their bounds and impact the California taxpayers as they are and citizenry as they are. It's not. And, I think it's good that the federal government look at what ways they can take action against these individuals who are going against federal law, which is there to protect.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm just tired of Democrats getting away with breaking the law. I'm just tired of it.
It is. And passing unlawful laws. That's what we're seeing right now in Sacramento, and that's what's probably, causing a lot of the divide and people wanting to move off to this new California. But the thing is this, we have to unite. We have to become a united front in California, make California great again, and not just saying that, like, let's make California great again, but really, let's do it. Let's unite. Let's vote the right people in. Let's get active in our communities. Let's increase our Republican voter rolls. That's one of the issues that's a problem for me in terms of getting over this hurdle. We need more Republican voters. If you want to vote for me, if you really want change, if you don't want Dianne Feinstein in that seat and you want to see her gone, and just say you're an independent or you're a libertarian or even a blue dog Democrat,
well,
you're going to have to change your votership. You're going to have to become a Republican voter in order to vote for me in the primary.
It's true. And you know what, folks? Look, we can't vote for you out here in the state of Texas, but we can send some help your way. So what is
get your California friends on board here.
Or why don't you give us the website where folks can go?
Yeah. Go to voteerincruz.com. That's VOTEERINCRUZ.com.
And that's going to do it for the Chris Salcedo Show worldwide for this evening on the Vida Television Network. Weigh in anytime on the program on Twitter at Chris Salcedo TX. And you can leave voicemail or email at chrissalcedo.com. We'll see you next time for the Chris Salcedo Show worldwide here on the Vida Television Network.